Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming, home of cool things like this. This is a monthly magazine dedicated to all things tabletop, and you can pick up your own copy in the link in the description. But today, welcome to YouTube. My name's Charlie and we're going to unbox this. This is Trekking the National Parks. Now, if you've been a viewer of our channel for a little while, you'll know that I did a recent video on trekking through history. We took a first look at what was inside because it was heading to Kickstarter, and at that point it was a prototype. Well, of course, it funded beautifully. It will be hitting our shelves sometime soon. I'm not too sure what the timeline is for that, but it was not the first in the series, nor was it the only. So we also have Trekking the National Parks and Trekking the World, which I've got my hands on. So we're going to take a look at this one today, and then one of our next videos is going to be Trekking the World. But let's have a look inside, see if there's any major differences to this and Trekking Through History, if there's different ways to play, or if it's the same sort of thing. I'm super excited. Let's have a look inside. Trekking National Parks is for ages 10 plus. It is for 2 to 5 players and it takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. It's a game about visiting America's national parks in a fun and competitive way, apparently. Now, just to show you, we have this beautiful bear on the front, and then on the back, a little bit more info about the game itself. So this is the map, presumably we're going to be using a quick description, which I've given, and all the sort of stats and what's included that you may need. But let's have a look at what they actually look like. Now, this is a second edition. It also tells us on the front that it is a Mensa Select winner, which is very, very cool, and also that it is a Parents' Choice Gold Award. Now, it was something that I really liked about Trekking Through History was the element of accidental learning alongside playing. So you're playing stuff, you don't really realise that you're picking up facts and information and cool things to refer back to. I have a feeling this is going to be the same. But the first thing I want to show you is that we have some stuff inside the box. Now, this is quite usually like underutilised space. We don't normally have things. But what it is a lovely message from Charlie Bink, who I believe is the designer, talking about how much they love the national parks, visiting them, releasing Trekking the National Parks, and being proud of their parents' grand accomplishments, which was the goal to visit all national parks of America. How wonderful. There you go. So it went to Kickstarter in 2014 apparently, and has obviously been very popular since. Now, inside the box we start with literature, which is pretty normal, that's what I expect. And this is Start Here. So let's have a look at what's inside. So, the Trail to How to Play video, or the Facebook group of national park lovers, which is really nice. We've got a little bit of info about our story, a small family company, reviews are very important, so please keep those, and who to contact if you have any issues at all. So we know from the start they're saying, hey look, we're cute, we're small, tell us how we're doing, let us know. And that's something I think is a bit underrated sometimes in board game designers. We are used to having small indie designers, we're used to having these things, and we forget that there are people at the other end that like hearing about their games being good, or like hearing about people playing their games. So if you get the opportunity and you enjoy, leave them a review. Same with Tabletop Gaming, by the way. I love hearing nice things about us. What else we got? We have this, How Well Do You Know the National Parks? Discover the rich history of the national parks with a clever game of guesstimation. So it's quite nice to see that this, which I believe is the one that started things, Trekking Through the National Parks, is not just a passion about board games, because obviously it's done well enough to span 2 more, the design must be good enough, but is a genuine passion for national parks. And as someone that is from the UK, lived in England, I've been to America a couple of times, but never to a national park, it is quite nice for me to be able to be like, let's see what some of the appeal is here. Okay, so this gives us our rule book. Nicely, we've got a video that we can watch on how to play, which is good because I'm dreadful at these things. But really, it's only a couple of pages worth, and most of them are pictures. So as soon as we figure that out, it looks like you're away. I think, to be honest, with its 10 plus rating, having a look at this, it's more than likely to do with the description and the understanding what stuff is being described, rather than necessarily inability to play if you're younger or unsuitable content, I believe. But I'll need to have a proper play so that I can confirm that. It talks about different sort of 2-player modes, how everything gets set up, where everything gets set up, and what you can do on those as well. So Pretty standard, quite short, very happy with that. And then some credits on the back too. Now, the next thing we have, more national parks. I like this, this feels like I'm learning already. So, the United States is home to 62 protected areas called national parks. 45 of these parks are printed on cards in the game. The following 17 can also be located on the map and are designated by green diamonds. So nicely, we've got some pictures. I wonder if those are the pictures that they said their parents took. I don't know, but very, very cool. Just to see all of those. And all that is before we even get to the game itself, which is where we are now. So, first up we begin with the board. Oh, already it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. Here we go. Whoa. Okay, we'll move this out of the way just for now. Let's have a look at this one. Ah, it went sideways. I thought it would be portrait, and it's not. It's landscape. So, this is rather a large one that won't hold up easily, but this is the map we're looking at. So obviously this is the US and these are the sort of main national parks that they're focusing on within it. So for the ill-educated heathen that I am, I recognise like Yellowstone and Yosemite and maybe a couple of other ones. Hot Springs, Great Smoky Mountains. Other ones, not really any idea on. I like that they've got a couple of creatures on here as well, presumably so the bears up north as to what sort of things you'll expect to see. Cactuses down the bottom. Interestingly, we've got like squirrels. I like that that's important enough that squirrels have a real vibe in America, obviously. Very, very important. We have a sort of leather feel. It's not real leather, but like a different kind of draw bag to what you normally get from the sort of boring plastic. So that's in there next. These are meeples, and they're much bigger than usual. A standard size meeple is like yay big. These meeples, look at that little backpacker. And I mean, I say little, but he's quite impressively sized. And the same, I mean, scale-wise, I feel like a bear would be bigger than a human, but we've got a bear meeple as well, all sorts of little bits like that. A couple of markers, I presume these are tents in different colours, and then some of those meeples in different colours too, but plenty of those. Now already I can say this feels like an entirely different game to Trekking Through History, or the impression that I got from Trekking Through History when we took a look at it at the time. That was very much a sort of card-based game, not in the sense that you're playing a card game, but that the entire mechanics of it were run through cards that you had selected, used or played. I mean, this already has extra tokens and things. Very different vibe. I still like it though, I still feel endeared towards it. These are the sort of things I love because they feel very tactile. There's something really like reassuring in them. They're like little counters, but little plastic ones, smooth plastic. Very light, very like, almost like the you know the little tiddlywink things that you play with, the little counters. Almost like as tactile as they are and as nice as they are to hold, but more pebble-like, so they've got a little bit more feeling to them. So that's those. And we also have some extra stones, interestingly, one of each colour. I wonder if that's something to do with the second edition needing extra amounts of something? I'm not entirely sure, but we'll go with it. Then we have 3 different sets of cards. So these ones are larger ones, which have got national parks on the back, and then most stones through stones. So let's take a look at a couple of them, see if we can get an idea on how we might play it. Oh, so these are, so we have 2 different colours. We have yellow and we have grey. And each of them seem to be scoring conditions, which is quite nice. So I imagine it's try and do as much as you can. So let's look at a big scorer. So if you have the second most yellow stones, that's very, very specific and quite difficult to keep up with, you will have 5 extra points, I imagine. And then the same thing, so most blue stones, most green stones, most yellow stones, all of those have options as well. I think that's probably the hardest to achieve, the second most. So that's what the grey ones are, sorry, that explains it. The second most are all grey cards and the most are all yellow cards. I'm not sure how they're designated, maybe shuffled to begin with so that you have different things you're trying to achieve each time, but a nice start. And another thing that I like is there is a specific space for them in the box, so I haven't got to worry about them disappearing during transit. They're held nice and safe. Now, let's have a look at these. Now from the diagrams, I know that these go around the board. I think these are sort of how you move or claim, so how you then go on to then lay down your tokens. So these have all different numbers, all different colours and all different symbols on. So for example, if I just pull these apart a little bit, I can show you some different ones. So we have our canoe, which has got Trek 1 on, but then as we go through, we've got quite a few Trek 1, and then we keep going and we get up to something like Trek 4, for example, which doesn't stop there, because we have those. We also have the same, but with a paw involved, or a tree involved, or a mountain involved, and there are more. There are different colours, different symbols, but these are sort of your first ones that you see. Now with those, one thing I've started commenting on because I really like it, because I've never realised how much of an issue it is I like that not only are they different colours, but we've also got that different symbol there. So if you struggle with differentiating between your colours, as some of the people I play with do, in their case it's sort of forms of colour blindness, but for whatever reason you can still play without having to make any adaptations, and I like that that's the case, and I think that's probably why it's been so popular as an educational game. Now, the downside to that is things like the red and blue of the tokens are still going to be potentially difficult to differentiate, or your green and blue, or your red and blue, green and red, depending on which of those difficulties you or others may have. But at least the cards are nearly there, and then maybe you just have to sub in the tokens, for example. It's just something to consider. Now, the last pack of cards are our larger cards. They're a little bit more tarot sized. I don't think they're fully tarot sized, but they're that sort of way. And we have 3 different types. So the first is a sort of player turn explanation. So these are your cheat sheets. You can give these to each of the players to see what they can do each time, just to make things a little bit easier than one person having the rules and having to keep consulting back. I'm a fan of these things. Then we have 6 cards that are major parks. So they've all got this background on, but they cover different things. So this is the sort of more educational side I was talking about that I enjoyed so much in trekking through history as well. So we have Yellowstone, for example. When trekking the trails of Yellowstone, you're literally walking atop a dormant volcano. The Yellowstone caldera was formed by a massive eruption 640,000 years ago. When it will blow again is under study. Which is kind of a good way to learn, isn't it? Really finding out these little facts, and then later on in conversation when something comes up, you can turn around and be like, do you know what? I know that from the Trekking Through the National Parks game. So we've got a couple of those. We've got Everglades, which is the Floridian one. It is the only place where alligators and crocodiles coexist. That is interesting. The Grand Canyon, Hawaii volcanoes, Arcadia, Denali, and I think I've done all of them. The Everglades, which I mentioned as the Floridian one. They seem to be your main ones. They are particularly important for some reason, but we do have a number of other national parks, and presumably the information included is within this many a set of cards that we've got here. And for someone like me, so there's probably a market here that Americans who are familiar with these and find these places really interesting and would like to visit, and so this gives you a little taste of something cool at home. It's the same reason why when I bought the smaller version of Ticket to Ride as a travel version, I specifically bought the London one, because I was like, oh, it's like places that we know. There is that. There is also a quite nice factor to this, that in England, or at least in my education, nothing brought up national parks. It is things that comes up on the news, or comes up in like the odd story or two, but isn't anything ever focused on. So learning a little bit more about somewhere that is easily actually visitable is quite a nice feature of this. It lets us move around, and I think, like I say, that was something I liked with Trekking Through History, was that I could learn bits and bobs. There were things that I was more interested than others, and of course I'd want to collect and visit those places, and this feels like you're doing the same. You're kind of collecting and going to cool different spots, claiming them as your own territory, your cool stuff, and getting the most points you can. So an easy opportunity for learning without any intent to do so. So there you have it. Actually quite a lot in here. I do think this plays very differently to the one I looked at, the Trekking Through History, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I like that there's a similar sort of understanding of education through cool things that aren't necessarily taught, but learning new things about them. So I'm intrigued. Let me know in the comments if you backed Trekking Through History. Let me know what your thoughts are on these series of games, whether these are your favourite, and how you feel about sort of accidentally learning about the national parks during something that is fun to play, like a light game that will give you just something to do in an afternoon whilst also giving you an education. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss that next one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.